Hi everyone, this video is on angle sum of a triangle, and you see I started this video with just the sentence or the sentences that are in the box on the first page of your note packet for this section. It says the three angles of any triangle sum to 180 degrees, and that is every time, always, everywhere in any universe. Alright? And that is going to always hold true. And when I say sum, that means that they add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so I can take any triangle that I want, and any triangle means that it's going to be any triangle. Okay, so let's add something on here. Let's add on exercises 1 and 2. Here's the pictures that we're going to use for exercise 1 and 2. And I'm going to put question number 1. This goes with this first triangle. See, we have the measure of angle 1 is 65. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to label the angles, what their measurements are. That's 65 degrees, and measure of angle 2 is 25 degrees, so I'm going to put that right in there. And they want to simply know what is the measure of angle 3. So using this fact, the three angles of any triangle sum up to 180, I'm going to label this one x. Alright, and so I could make an equation if I wanted to about the three angles. I could take angle 1, which is 65, and I could take angle 2, which is 25, and I could take angle 3, which is x. That's what I don't know, and if I add those up, it should equal 180 degrees. Alright, and we should be able to solve this equation pretty easily. Now if I take 65 and 25, I get 90. Alright, and I'll keep everything else the same. And we've done this before where we've solved for x in an equation, and we simply take away 90 from both sides of the equation. Alright, and I get x equals 90 degrees. Alright, now obviously this picture was not drawn very accurately, okay, because 90 degrees certainly does not look like that. So we have to kind of disregard our picture here. That wasn't drawn very well. But the idea is that if I'm given two angles of the triangle, I should be able to solve for the other angle. Alright, so let's turn that layer off and let's put on the next one here. Alright, now this one I'm going to label the measurements up here. This is going to be 20 degrees for the measure of angle 4. And the measure of angle 6 is 15 degrees. Alright, we finish that right there. And again, we want to know what the measure of angle 5 is. So this is going to be x. Okay, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to make an equation. I'm going to add up 20 degrees. And actually, I'm not going to put the degree symbol in there because I'm making an equation. So 20 plus my 15 plus my x, and that equals 180. Okay, so I solve it the same way. 20 plus 15, that's 35. And I've got plus x equals 180. And so I want to solve for x. I want to get x all by itself. So I take away 35 from both sides. And we're going to do much more of this algebra in the future here. So for now, very simple. And 180 minus 35, that's going to be 145. Okay, so I can go up here and say this angle is 145 degrees. Okay, now if you don't want to do it with an equation for now, I'm okay with that. If you want to simply say, you know what, I know all three of those have to add up to 180, so if I take 180 and I take away 20, I get 160, and then if I take away 15 more, I get 145. Just make sure you tell me that the measure of angle 5 is equal to 145. Alright, so for now I'm okay with that. Really mathematical way. In the future we're going to be building equations and stuff. That's really the process that we're after right there. Okay? Alright, so not too hard so far. Okay, again, it's all about this statement up here, that they all add up to 180. Alright, so let me turn that off for a minute. Alright, so let's take a look at the third triangle over here. And the first time I look at this, I don't have any of the angles given to me. I just have angle 7, 8, and 9, but they don't give me any measurements for those angles. So at first inspection, I'm kind of stuck here. However, this angle right here has this little symbol in here. Okay, and that little symbol stands for perpendicular. So that tells me that this line segment here and this line segment here, they form this angle down here, and that little symbol tells me that they hit each other, or they strike each other in a perpendicular angle. Alright, and a perpendicular angle is equal to 90 degrees. So even though I wasn't given the other two, I know that this angle right here is 90. Alright, so that we can finish the problem, I'm going to give you what this angle is equal to. Alright, I'm going to give you that this angle is equal to 35 degrees. Okay, so now once I have that, I can do the same thing. I want to figure out what that angle is. Alright, so that is going to be my x, that's going to be my unknown. Alrighty, so just like I did in the other two, I'm going to make an equation. I'm going to say, well, if I take that 35 degrees, again, I'm going to take that degrees out of there because I'm putting it in an equation, and I add the 90, and then I add the one that I don't know. If I add all those three up, that's going to be equal to 180. Alright, so again, very similar to the others. I'm going to add these two together. 90 and 35 gives me 125. And then I'm going to take away 125 from this side of the equation, which, if I do that, I got to make sure I take 125 away from the other side of the equation. And let's see, 180 minus 125, that leaves me with 55 degrees. Okay, so up here, that is going to be equal to 55 degrees. Alrighty, so pretty straightforward. Alright, that'll work for any triangle. Alright, and so let me take this away and let me go to... Alright, so this is exercise 3, and exercise 3 is a little different. We've got a triangle again, and I left this statement up here. I still holds this plus this plus this. These two angles, or these three angles, sorry, in here will all add up to 180. And it says, what are the angles within the triangle, and what is the measure of the exterior angle? There's a little typo there. That should say, what is the measure of the exterior angle? So the exterior angle, remember from last time we talked about what the word exterior means. That means on the outside of the triangle. So the exterior angle would be this one right down here. Okay? So let's tackle these two issues. They want to know what the angles within the triangle are and what is the measure of the exterior angle. Well, in order to find out the three angles in here, well, I have to give you some information to begin with. I'm going to give you 2 degrees to put into these two angles right here. And let's make this one 65 degrees. Alright, let's make that one 65, and let's make this one a little smaller. Let's say this is 55 degrees right here. Okay, so using the same idea as we did before, we should be able to figure out what that angle is. Alright, so I'm doing this in red right now, and when I do this one I'll switch to blue. So this is x plus 55 plus 65, and that all should equal, all three of those should add up to 180. Alright, and very similar to what we did before, we add 55 and 65 and I get 120 equals 180, and to solve it I take away 120. Alright, and x equals 60 degrees. Okay, so that tells me that this one right here, I'm going to put this little arrow right there. And they say that's 60 degrees in there. Okay, and they also want to know what the measure of the exterior angle is. Alright, so very easy. If I know this is 60 degrees inside the triangle, well, I've mentioned this before. If you have a straight line like I do right here, this is a straight line, then I know that the two of these angles, they have to add up to 180 degrees. Because if I have a straight line, alright, I can draw it right over here. If I ever took my protractor, alright, draw myself a little protractor, put it right on there. Protractors have like little striations right here, little marks. If I ever measured that, well, up from here all the way around to there, that would be 180 degrees. Okay, so that means these two angles would have to add up to 180 degrees. So, alright, well, 60, that's the angle inside the triangle right here, plus my blue X, alright, that's the one I'm looking for right here, these have to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so if I take away 60 and I take away 60, well, X equals 120. So that means this angle right here is 120 degrees. Okay, and again, right now, if you want to do it with an equation, that's great. Although we haven't worked with too much with equations, but we are in the future. So I think that's that's the easiest way. If you right now you said, look, I know it adds up to 180, and if I take away 60, then I get 120. Right now, we're good with that. Okay? All right, but really practicing this way is going to be to your benefit, because we're going to do that in the future. All right? Okay, so let me clear the deck here and go to the last example. Here's exercise 4, and you notice there's not much to this picture right now. Nothing is labeled, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to tell you that these two lines are in fact parallel. Alright, so we can label these L1 and L2, and I'm just going to write that over here. L1 and L2 are parallel. Okay, so knowing that, that tells us, since we have two parallel lines, it's cut by this transversal right here. That tells me that any corresponding angles, any alternate interior angles, any alternate exterior angles are congruent to each other. All right, and also vertical angles. All right, the vertical angles are congruent to each other as well. All right, so I'm going to label some of these to start, and then we want to figure out what the three angles inside the triangle are. All right. So what I've done is I've labeled two of the angles, and I've labeled this one 40, and you may say, well, what does that have to do with the angles inside the triangle? Alright, well, if you remember from before, if I have two parallel lines and they are cut by a transversal, that means the alternate interior angles are the same. So if this one is 40, well, I also know that this one is 40 degrees right down here, because those are alternate interior angles. Okay, so I've got one of them. Well, if I look at these angles right down here, we've said a few times that if I have a straight line, well, the two angles that make up that straight line, well, they have to add up to 180. Well, so that means if this is 125, well, this would have to be 55 degrees right in there. Okay, well, that helps me a lot, because I've got two of the angles of the triangle. I've figured them out. Well, just like I did before, now if I can figure out what that one is, I'm all set. So do the same thing we did before. Take 40 plus 55 plus X. Those should add up to 180. Alright, so 40 plus 55 is 95. And now I just solve it for X. Take away 95 on both sides. And what do I get if I take 180 minus 95? Real quick, get your calculators out. You thinking? You're thinking? That is 85 degrees. Okay? So that is equal to 85 degrees, that angle right there. Okay, so I've got my three angles of my triangle. Alrighty, so all of those problems revolved around this fact, and tomorrow's assignment will as well. So thanks for watching, and have a good night.